Hey TYT sports fans, it's me, Josh Gibbs, Josh Point oh, Chief Josh Yola, as always, whatever you want to call me, here for another installment of our YouTube page. I know it's been a while since we've actually put out a YouTube video, and I think this is the first time we're putting out in our new crazy format that we use for 10:05 Live every Tuesday night at 10:05 p.m. East Coast time. This is not just a SummerSlam recap. What I wanted to do, I asked Jason, the producer of TYT Sports, if I could do a show not long after SummerSlam, because I wanted a chance for Raw and SmackDown to both have their day in court, give everybody a day or so to digest what has happened in the wake of SummerSlam, and then throw something out that is a Road to WrestleMania video. Essentially, what did we learn from SummerSlam? What were the lessons that we can take forward as we move on into the next set of pay-per-views? As you know, SummerSlam is one of the big four. So you've got SummerSlam, the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and WrestleMania. Those are the four biggest pay-per-views of the year for the WWE. And for a while, since its inception in the 80s, SummerSlam was considered the second biggest pay-per-view after WrestleMania. So that shows you the kind of attention that WWE has traditionally given to something of this caliber. And that's a big deal for the company. So they wanted to put on a really good show. And they did. If you watched on Raw and SmackDown and watched the 10:05 Live that we did this past week, we went over a lot of these results. We went over where we're going to be going as far as the results of those shows going on. And now what I want to address is, what are the biggest lessons we learned? If you see the videos that are playing, these are all of the things from the WWE's official YouTube channel. This was their entire week leading up to the SummerSlam show, all of the things that they did, charity events, appears on Jimmy Kimmel, or not Jimmy Kimmel, on other various late night shows like Jimmy Fallon and stuff like that. So all of this ties in together with the narrative that they're trying to tell. So what did we learn from SummerSlam? Okay, a couple of the biggest takeaways. The first one is that they have confidence in their champions. That's Jinder Mahal and Brock Lesnar. These guys retained their belts at SummerSlam, one of the few to actually retain their belts at SummerSlam since there were so many title changes. But that tells you a lot of things. It tells you, number one, the company wants to keep the belt with Brock Lesnar for a while. All the talk about him going to the UFC to possibly fight John Jones, which recently has now been probably even put further on hold since John Jones failed another drug test. That's probably not going to happen. It definitely wouldn't happen this year, and more than likely they won't even be able to realistically look into that until after WrestleMania 34 in April of next year. But the fact that they kept the belt with Lesnar, even in the midst of a fatal four-way, tells me that they have enough confidence in him to keep the belt likely until WrestleMania 34. And I think that's when he'll actually finally drop it. Either to Roman Reigns is probably the most likely chance, or something always could change. They may actually give it to Braun Strowman at WrestleMania. The current rumor is that it was going to be WrestleMania and Brock Lesnar, or I'm sorry, Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 34. So it remains to be seen. Wrestling is fluid. The WWE is fluid. What are plans one day become something different the next. So it all depends on intangibles and injuries and crowd reactions to certain things, certain storylines. That's why all these shows play out so often, and that's why all these other pay-per-views matter, and all of these shows matter, because that's what they're trying to gauge, is what is ultimately going to lead to the biggest ratings, the biggest bang for our bucks. So that's what we're working towards. But they have confidence in Lesnar. They also have confidence in Jinder Mahal. A lot of people thought that the whole reason they gave the belt to Jinder Mahal in the first place was because the WWE is expanding business into India. And that's partially true, yeah. But it's not the sole reason why they gave it to Jinder Mahal. Part of the reason is there just isn't anybody else on the SmackDown roster who would make a legitimate champion right now. And that includes Shinsuke Nakamura. And that's the reason why he was not successful in his bid to become the champion. So, it's a little bit of an insult, I think, to say, well, the only reason you have the belt is because of your heritage. I think that leads us down a pretty dangerous path, especially considering what's been going on in the certain parts of the country. I don't agree with some of the storytelling the WWE has done with Jinder Mahal's character. I think they're inviting a lot of cultural insensitivity and bigotry, maybe unintentionally, but at the end of the day, these fans are still booing a guy's culture. They're booing a woman who's singing the national anthem of India, and I mean, he's not, and I get it, he's the villain and all that kind of stuff, and you can point to historical times when that had happened, like with Sergeant Slaughter, when he took the side of Iraq, and other things like that, or the Iron Sheik and guys of that nature. But they were heels of a different caliber. So I think they're walking a very fine line with this story. But it remains to be seen how it plays out, but I just don't think there's anyone who legitimately could take the belt away from Jinder Mahal, at least at this juncture. He's going to keep it for at least a little while longer. Certainly not as long as Lesnar, but at least for a while. The video you're seeing right now, this is another takeaway, is that we are inching closer and closer to a formal Shield reunion. Now that we have Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins as the official tag team champions that they won at SummerSlam. So all of this points to the WWE wants to solve their Roman Reigns problem. Creative has been pulling their hair out literally for years, trying to figure out why fans don't like Roman Reigns overwhelmingly. Now, to be fair, you can look at the boos and you can say, well, fans hate Roman Reigns, so he's probably going to be fired. He has actually the second highest merchandise sales in the company. So if you think that the WWE is doing something wrong, they don't think so at all. And you're wrong if you think that. He's not a bad wrestler. He gets a reaction from the crowd. Whether it's a positive or negative, he still gets a reaction, and that's ultimately what matters. So don't think for a second that the company has soured on Roman Reigns. However, they would like him to be received in a different way. And the way they can solve that is by putting him with one of the most successful factions they've had in recent years. That's the Shield. The Shield, during their run, had some of the highest merchandise sales. They always had a spike in ratings whenever they were on. So these are positive things that the WWE takes a look at. They pull out their historical data and they say, can we recreate this? Can we? They were lightning in a bottle during their relatively short run. Is there any way we can do this again? And I think the answer is yes. I'm not typically a fan of saying, hey, you know, in this case you got to take a step back to take a step forward. But for this, yes, I think you do. I think there's nothing wrong with bringing this team back together because it would solve several problems and it would bring us a host of new opportunities, especially for tag team championships, for, you know, especially if they become the Shield of old, kind of going on their own, if they ever wanted to bring back any kind of authority figures whenever Shane and Triple H decide to come back into the fold. So it opens up more opportunities for all three guys. You know, they went on different trajectories when the Shield broke up, and now, as professional wrestling is wont to do, these relationships have been mended to a point, and I think slowly but surely we're going to see Roman Reigns being brought back into that. I don't think it'll be in time for WrestleMania 34, but it could be. I think that would be very interesting if they did it that soon. So that could be a lot of fun. What else did we learn? I think we learned that guys like Kevin Owens and AJ Styles still are going to be the face of SmackDown, even in the wake of Bobby Roode being called up from NXT to be on SmackDown, and Shelton Benjamin coming back from a long absence, a 7-year absence from the company, to come back and team up with Chad Gable on SmackDown next week. So the WWE is trying to look forward. They're trying to bring the ratings up. The ratings haven't been as high as they were during the actual Superstar shakeup just after WrestleMania 33 earlier this year in April. And they've been chasing these ratings ever since. And a surefire way to do that is to try something different. So the call-ups of somebody like Roode, who is incredibly popular in NXT, and then bringing Shelton Benjamin back, the rumors have been flying for months that he was going to come back. Those are steps in that direction. SmackDown is still the B show to Raw. Raw, especially when we see that Raw has invested so much in big guys like Braun Strowman and Brock Lesnar and Samoa Joe. They're just the ones who are getting more of the attention, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's a great success for Raw, but SmackDown is suffering because of that. So they're trying to find ways to catch up, and I think we may be done with the entire Kevin Owens AJ Styles story, and we're going to move on to the Kevin Owens Shane McMahon story. So look for that to happen sometime in the future. I don't know if they'll drag it out to WrestleMania for them to have a match there. It's entirely possible, but I believe that's going to be the feud we start to see created, especially considering what happened on SmackDown, which we went over on 10:05 Live. The final thing that I'll bring up that we learned as we move on this official road to WrestleMania is the confidence the company has in Braun Strowman, their new favorite big man. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that Braun Strowman was just this strong, silent member of the Wyatt family, and all of a sudden he's become this incredible star who people really, really lose their mind for, and who's actually a legitimate threat to Brock Lesnar's crown, to his throne, to his Universal title. It's not an easy thing to do, to make Brock Lesnar look small, but when Braun Strowman steps in the ring and he's looking down at Brock Lesnar and he's able to manhandle him in the way that he is, that's pretty incredible. And that spells a lot of good things for the company, because having the Fatal 4-Way be as successful as it was, all the interactions they have on Raw being as successful as they are, that gives them the freedom to tell more stories with him and to keep him involved in these great feuds. He had his feud with Roman Reigns was fantastic. It was really good. Even though there was a big size difference between the two men, they still gave us some really, really great opportunities, like the ambulance matches, the fights they would have backstage, and Braun Strowman being, starting the I'm not finished with you yet thing and tipping over the ambulance. You guys remember that? He tipped over an ambulance. It was insane. And people talked about it for weeks because it was so bananas. And it was on SportsCenter and it was all over the place. And it was fantastic. That's what professional wrestling is supposed to be. It's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be fun. That's what makes it different from other sports. And that's why when people say, oh, it's just fake, it is and it isn't. If you call it fake, you're calling it something it's not pretending to be. All right, what if I told you that Roger Goodell knew the outcome of every NFL game? Would you still watch? Of course you would, because it's football. So yeah, just because somebody in the back knows the results of these matches, I don't know the results, you don't know the results, that's what matters. Is that there is still that mystery, and you see fans reacting that way because they just don't know how things are going to end. That's ultimately what makes a good story. Is you want to go on this journey, go on this, follow this storyline to its conclusion, and then ultimately, if you're not satisfied, the great thing about pro wrestling is the story doesn't end every week. The story doesn't end with the pay-per-view. You'll get another chance, and another chance, and another chance, and it goes on and on and on, because there is no off-season with pro wrestling. That's what makes it so great. So, that's my time. Thank you, as always, for you guys tuning in to watch not just these YouTube videos, but if you tune in every Tuesday night at 10:05 p.m. On the TYT Sports Facebook page for 10:05 Live, I sincerely appreciate it. We're trying to get better. That's what all of this is for. These new microphones, this new format, all of this stuff is an effort to try to reach a bigger audience, to try to reach more WWE fans, and make this your show. That's what this is. That's what this is, and that's what 10:05 Live is. These are your shows. These are interactive shows. That's why you can join me live at 10:05 p.m. on Tuesday nights. You can throw out your questions. You can throw out your comments, and I'll address every single one of them. Everybody who logs on, who throws something in there, I try to throw it in there and address it, because that's what this is. This is supposed to be a big conversation. I want this to be interactive, and that's what TYT Sports wants. We want this to be a unique wrestling show. You can find write-ups, you can find people talking to you one way on the internet all over the place to give you their hot takes on pro wrestling. But we're the only show that's involving you, that's directly saying your opinion matters, that's saying your views matter, and we want to hear them all. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever you feel, hey, throw it in there. And you know what? We'll address it at that time. So, thank you as always for joining me, even on YouTube, where you get to watch it anytime you want. You can rewind it, watch it again, watch it while you're doing the dishes, watch it while you're just sitting there playing video games. Spend 12 minutes, 13 minutes watching the video, have a good time, and then comment at your leisure. If you've watched my videos on YouTube in the past, you know I take the time to go and comment in every single one of them, because that matters. If you took the time to watch this video and to comment, the least I can do is take the time to comment back. So, thank you as always. You can join me again at 10:05 p.m. on Tuesday nights for 10:05 Live on the TYT Sports Facebook page. I'm Josh Gibbs. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.